Hi, my name is Bob Taylor, and I'm your host for this segment of Our Ventura TV. I'm here today with my guest, Tara Carruth, from the County of Ventura. Thank you for being with me, Tara.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, now please explain to me what your title is on that card that I just read. That was quite a mouthful.
It is. So I work in the county executive office, and I manage what is called the Ventura County Continuum of Care program. And the mission of that program is a regional collaborative effort to prevent and end homelessness in Ventura County.
Now, is that special to Ventura County, or do all the counties have one of those?
It's not just counties. So it is a national program. HUD funding from the federal government, and so some communities, rural, smaller states, it may be the whole state. LA is its own, big region. Right. Ventura County, some communities it's city, sometimes it's multiple counties lumped together.
Okay, so when we see, almost every election we go to, we see some kind of bill for passage of housing for either homeless or for the veterans or something like that. So
that's right.
Those are the things you would really encourage us to vote yes for.
Yes.
So that's what your job is.
Those are new resources.
Okay, now the first question I think of is that what you're trying to do. Is your final goal possible?
It is a lofty goal. It sometimes feels like a hill that we will never get to the top. But it is achievable. We've seen in other communities, and we've made some significant progress. Other communities have ended veteran homelessness. So sometimes when you have such a big goal to take it down, focus on a subpopulation or a smaller group, then you can see how it can be achievable.
Right, you can get, because I had somebody on here that worked just with the migrant workers.
Right.
So she was working on migrant worker housing.
Right.
Oh, I see, that makes it a lot more possible to boil it out.
Right.
Okay, now, here's another question I have. What percentage would you say, just off the top of your head, you may not know, of homeless people are actually homeless? I know people that choose to be homeless because they don't want to follow the rules at home or didn't want to, or people that just don't want to work hard, so they bounce couch to couch with somebody's.
Right. So the federal government has different definitions of homelessness. Okay. The focus of our program is those who are literally homeless, meaning they're living in places not meant for human habitation or an emergency shelter or transitional housing. That does not include families who are doubled and tripled up, or people who are couch surfing, moving around in different locations. As long as
they're not sleeping on the streets or in a corner or someplace that's not deemed for humans to sleep in.
Right.
Okay, now what if somebody just doesn't want to go home because they don't want to follow rules at home? How do you help somebody like that?
Right. Sometimes that is a true statement. There are challenges. Sometimes that's mental illness, addiction, other challenges. Sometimes that's domestic violence or a family dispute where it's not really safe for someone to return to a home environment.
Do you try to get other services out to help those people in one
Absolutely.
Way or another? Okay, so you collaborate with...
Yes, with service providers that range from, outreach services, behavioral health services, to the ultimate goal of housing.
So your goal is not just housing, your goal is homelessness, no matter how you have to do that.
Except I would say that the only way that you end homelessness is with housing.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. I totally agree. Now, something I've asked other people, and some people say they like them, and some people say they don't. Tiny homes.
Right. It is an interesting conversation. And ultimately what I ask people is, would you live in a tiny home?
I would gladly live in a 400 square foot house.
Right. I think I would too. But there's a difference between something that you put together that is very simple structure without a bathroom, without kitchen facilities.
That's not to me a real tiny home.
Right. Versus a smaller footprint living option. And so we have looked at some of those. Right now, tiny homes aren't allowed except as accessory dwelling units
in Ventura County,
as a residential dwelling. And when you have conversations about limited land availability,
Right.
is that the best use of getting housing units on a parcel of
And
land?
Ventura County, because of all our farming, our our land is worth so much money.
True.
Now, I've heard two different tiny home stories, one good, one bad. One
Okay.
was a tiny home community quite a few years ago tried to put a bunch of tiny homes in this deserted lot, like a closed lot. And that went good for about a year, and then somebody came in and some do-gooder came in and sued them because the sanitation wasn't good, so they had to shut it all down. And now there's a group in Detroit that put together a bunch of tiny homes. They did it all right. If you live in the house, it costs you $1 a week. If you live there for 5 years, you own the house.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, what a great deal is that? Of course,
Right.
they police it to make sure there's no
Right.
riffraff or anything else, but that to me would really help a lot of people that really don't want to be homeless, want to get
Right.
on their feet, give them a place to start,
Right.
and someplace they can go home and have a meal.
And that's part of the challenge we have right now, is that there are very limited options for people who do want to move out of homelessness to get a chance to move forward, right? To have some safe place to start working on getting employment, getting their health and their mental health treated. You need a safe place to stay, sort of those basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Right.
to get that progress moving forward.
Right. So you work with groups like Many Mansions and those kind of groups.
Yes.
Now I've heard some of those groups, and I guess this is not necessarily a bad thing. It just proves the need. But some of them have like a 5 or 6 year wait.
It's true. Yes.
According to the papers that they
right.
have applied.
And so most of those, and Many Mansions is one, where they have affordable housing, and then they have what's called supportive housing, which is for people with disabilities who are homeless. That process, we are filling vacancies through a coordinated entry system, and you can find more information on the Continuum of Care's website, which is www.venturacoc.org.
Okay.
COC,
Okay.
right, the Continuum of Care. And we are filling vacancies through that coordinated entry process. It's really based on who is the most vulnerable that needs the unit when it becomes available. But then, yes, through the public housing authorities, which we have 5 of in Ventura County, and our nonprofit housing developers and their properties, like Many Mansions and Cabrillo, they have very lengthy wait lists. Those are really for anyone who needs affordable housing that qualifies, and it's really challenging.
Well, even affordable housing in Ventura County is not necessarily
right. We're hearing the new development at Wagon Wheel, a 1-bedroom apartment for $2,400 a month.
Wow, and that, I'm not going to say that's a bad price, but when you need affordable housing, people can't do that. I have a lady friend of mine who, she's registered under Ventura County Behavioral Health.
Yeah.
She has problems. Her dad is paying for her to stay in a townhouse now. He's not going to be around much longer. He's in his 70s and has just recent back operation. And we don't know what's going to happen to her once something happens to him, but you really can't get any help when somebody's already living someplace.
Right.
You know, and if
a
all of a
challenge.
sudden she's on the streets, there's help everywhere.
Well,
not everywhere, but,
right.
but there's people
But
I can call.
Yes, right. But limited places to get you off the streets.
Right.
We're working on those things, have made a lot of progress in getting some new emergency shelter programs up and running, working really closely with the cities of Ventura and Oxnard to move forward with new shelter programs that offer a person a place to immediately get off the streets while we work on a housing plan with them.
Right.
But we also have a woman who she's been featured in some news articles recently, an editorial from the Ventura County Star, a 75-year-old woman who lost her housing after the property owner sold the house after the Thomas fire. She has a Section 8 voucher for subsidy, for housing subsidy. And we've been working with her for nearly a year, waiting for an available unit where a landlord's willing to take that voucher. And
Wow.
so ultimately, she's going to have to move out of the city of Ventura because of the limited availability of housing in Ventura. And she's been in a vehicle for almost a year at 75 years old. And these are real stories that are impacting families, seniors, people with disabilities. It is not just a story of the stereotype people hold about homelessness.
I knew a couple of realtors that for a while were living in their cars.
Yeah.
You know, I've done a lot of volunteer work for Food Share. 1 out of every 6 in Ventura County needs help. And they have Lincoln's pull up, Mercedes's pull up. They just need to get by.
Yeah.
Okay, now how far, I don't want to say behind, we're not behind, because as we work on things, but how many units could we use in Ventura County right now?
You know,
that would be full automatic.
Yes, right. And it would be hard for me to come up with an estimate. We do an annual survey of how many people are homeless in the county that looks at one day. Our homeless count will be coming up in January. We use some of that information and who's seeking services through our service system. That ranges, so estimating of around 2,000 to 3,000 people are homeless over the course of the year, literally homeless in Ventura County. But then when you look at the overcrowding and the other at-risk population, you're getting into the tens of thousands of folks.
And when you look at the migrant, 7 or 8
the
people.
farm workers.
I mean, even down on Lewis and Camarillo, really nice house I was looking at. You know, yard looked nice, it really looked nice. There was 13 mattresses in the house.
Right. And so you have health and safety concerns when people are forced to live like that because they don't have other options. We are seeing an increase in development, going back to how many housing units. The recession really hit Ventura County hard. New construction was almost stopped, right, for several years if you look at the State of the Region report, and it's starting to increase, but it hasn't kept up with what the needs are.
Well, hopefully, as time goes on, we'll find a way to double our efforts, which will eventually get caught up.
Right.
Now, did you hear that story about that truck driver in Paradise?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we had that Paradise fire, and
Yes.
there was a truck driver. I don't want to mention a company, but he's a garbage truck. There was fires going on the road, and instead of heading back, he went down his road to see if there's anybody that needed help. And some older lady in her 80s, 85 I believe, was out at the end of her driveway. Her house was burning down. He picked her up. She had nowhere to go. He took her home. And there was an article in the paper about him taking her home, and she's now living with him and his wife and his kid.
Wow.
I mean, those are the kind of things those are the headlines that have to lead.
Yes.
You know, because that encourages others to have that feel-good thing, and the more we can help each other that way, the less homeless we'd actually have.
Right, and we did see and have seen that in the aftermaths of our own local disasters, the Thomas Fire. A lot of times that generosity is short-lived, right? And so we're still seeing people who've been in temporary housing following the Thomas Fire who still don't have a permanent place, either while they're rebuilding or because they were a renter when they lost their housing. And so, yes, absolutely, those stories are very inspiring, and I do hope that motivates more people.
It's kind of like the Christmas season. Come January, we'll cuss everybody out because we got our bills, but until then, we love everybody.
Homelessness is year-round.
All right, we're just about out of time, Tara. Is there anything that you should tell the audience that we didn't touch on?
No, we have our annual homeless count coming up. We are always looking for volunteers for those types of...
I want to talk on that. So every January you do a homeless count.
Yes. It's the last Tuesday in January. It does take a lot of volunteers. It's county-wide, so every city has a lead, and we work together to go out and survey people who slept outdoors the night before. Every year I hear from volunteers that have done it the first year who say, you know, this really helped me to get a better understanding of what is happening in my community, gain some compassion. And then we also have other opportunities for people to get involved in our committee work, attending our meetings. Most of them are public, and we really encourage community members to get engaged.
Thank you very much for being with me,
Thank
Tara.
you. Appreciate it.
My name is Bob Taylor. I've been your host for this segment of Our Ventura TV. I've been here today with my guest, Tara Carruth from the County of Ventura. Until next time, thank you very much.